Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talk series, brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry association committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. Actionable ESG Talk series bring together great minds to discuss the current state and the future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. I'm delighted to be here with our guest, Faith Taylor. Hello, Faith. I just want to make a quick introduction. You are the Global Corporate Citizenship and Sustainability Officer for Kyndryl, covering the ESG. Note about Kyndryl is the world's largest infrastructure company with over 240 data centers in 60 plus states, countries rather, and over 60,000 employees, and with an annual revenue exceeding $16 billion in sales. You are responsible for, thank you, for building and overseeing the corporate and the company's program that led us up to the strategic priorities. Prior to Kyndryl, you worked at Tesla at sustainability. I reserve another talk for how Tesla is doing sustainability these days. And I want to continue by noticing that you are being named the Sustainability Magazine as one of the top 10 ESG women or the leaders in 2024. And I want to start with a question which we ask all our guests, and it's about the current sustainability trends that you observed.
Absolutely. So thank you, Manuel. I'm happy to be here to talk about sustainability globally. Been in this space for over 20 years now, created my job. Some of the trends that we're seeing, and I think this is no surprise, is that you're starting to see AI being leveraged for sustainability solutions. And at Kyndryl, we leverage it in our data center through machine learning, particularly optimizing energy such as water usage. We're also seeing mandatory climate regulations globally. And there's a corporate social responsibility directive in the EU. There's other standards in Latin America called ISSB, and in the moving from concept to actually implementation of solutions, and looking at life cycle product analysis. And then, there's also how do we give equitable access to, climate resiliency and sustainability in communities around the world that don't have the economic means. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing.
Oh, excellent. And I wanted to mention that we are actually at AKFI, we are supporting BICSI, BICSI being the association that certifies people building the data centers. And we have they have a major conference in August, and we are actually supporting them on presentations on AI and sustainability. So very much along the topics, and with Kyndryl, I'm sure that your company works closely with also BICSI. We are trying to help them to move to the sustainability in data centers, which is obviously a challenge for AI.
Yeah.
And we're also looking very closely at the sustainability in the supply chains and the roles that technology, you mentioned AI, and we can continue with that, can help improving supply chain transparency and frankly, the reporting, which seems to be a burden for suppliers on sustainability.
Yeah. So, the way that, in terms of technology helping with supply chain transparency is probably the best way to put it, is that it can enable you to have real-time tracking of materials and help you with the sources and end-to-end users. The other thing is using IoT sensors to monitor the environmental conditions and also labor practices, doing some supplier facility research, that AI can enable that. The other thing is that, one of the challenges is this vast amount of data in the supplier space. And by enabling data analytics, you can identify risk and opportunities. Blockchain is another technology that's being used. It can record certifications. The other thing is enabling our suppliers to use more sustainable solutions like cloud-based collaborations. These are some of the ways that I've seen that technology has been used in the supply chain to enable us to better track and measure our results.
And then Faith, in discussions with people that have to report, they have roles like yourself being leaders in sustainability, and they describe a different phenomena. There is the last minute rush to provide the reporting. And what you mentioned about real-time data collection is something that I think has to take place across the industries and the supply chains. I don't know what your observations are in this space, but it seems to be once a year reporting more than yearly activity, day by day.
Yeah, well, let me say this, you can do real-time data capture, right? Because you can get energy bills directly from utility companies if you have the right agreements in place. But there still is a lag time for data, and it can take to finalize or get data across the world. Certain invoices are done on a monthly basis. You could do real time. Some are done on a quarterly basis. And therefore, for you to be able to harmonize that information can be a challenge. And so, this process of automating and estimating accurately is really needed because the amount of data comes in so many different formats, as well as timing issues, can make it difficult in terms of the information. So those are some of the challenges that people face, and then you have to report on this. So some companies are internally, they might do an annual report, but internally you're tracking monthly, quarterly, and you're seeing how you're doing against your results.
In your observation, do you see a change in the relationship between the supply chain and the companies? And let me explain. Currently, the supply chain or the supply agreements are pretty much one direction. The data flows from the customer to the supplier. Now that we introduce sustainability, we are requiring the suppliers to come back and share data, uh, share it in the proper format, come up to an agreement. And what we observed actually in AKFI is that major suppliers may have tens of customers that ask different formats, different ways to supply the data, different time frames, and so on. What are your observations?
So my observations is that this is an area that is maturing because it really does depend. I'm going to be frank with you, having been in three different industries: hospitality, manufacturing, and technology. The data in the supply chain is tremendously different. And it depends on your business model. What are the products, the services that you're tracking and measuring? And so, therefore, what you require in terms of, do you need to do a life cycle analysis if you're not manufacturing products? Or do you need to look at, as we look at these different data inputs in your supply chain, what are the requirements that you're asking for your suppliers, and are there frameworks that you can leverage today? People are leveraging CDP, EcoVadis, and SBTI commitments that are third party validated to say that if they're reducing their footprint, that's part of our footprint. So there's a variety of methodologies out there, both using spin data, actual carbon data, and what I see is a hybrid methodology happening across the industry. There's tremendous opportunity for harmonizing this information, and it's continuing to evolve.
We definitely agree at AKFI. We are actually working on a framework which we call it the sustainability transfer standards or standard. And it's exactly trying to harmonize the data and the problems that we observe. So I'm extremely happy to hear you, with your deep insights of the industry, giving us encouragement to proceed in that direction. Um, we cannot have an interview or a conversation without talking about the finance and the financial part. And many companies again consider sustainability as a cost center, I call it. They look at it as being a cost to report, cost of compliance, cost of doing business as a supplier. Uh, but I think we should have to, and actually, I want to hear your opinion, but I think we need to move it from a cost center to a profit center, because until we make sustainability profitable, the CFOs will not like it really on their balance sheets.
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing, and you're right, it's not just a cost center, it can be a revenue center. Um, But additionally, and I totally agree with you. You got to show short-term gains, which is you're implementing energy efficiency projects, you're reducing costs to the bottom line in the short term. In the long term, you're generating new revenue sources for the company because you're helping other companies get to their net zero goal. And so they help pay you to help them with that service and capability. And then at what the business benefits are. One of the things that we actually do is run scenario planning and financial models to see how we've integrated this into our process. And as we grow, how do we decouple carbon from growth? And that's an ongoing process of evaluation and improvement. And so then we can analyze, how much capital we're spending. Are we spending it in the right place? Where is the return on investment? I would have to say that though there's quite a bit of what I call brand reputation that's on the line here. And you have to be able to also manage your customers asking this, investors asking about your ratings in these various areas, and how you're managing the risk, which is a big component today with all of the regulatory requirements. So, managing risk is also front and center for the company, as well as what is the ROI. And the business value at the end of the day should be always articulated across all of the different elements, both short term and long term.
And I think there is absolutely, and thank you for sharing. Actually, this is a very proactive way to look at sustainability as opposed to being reactive. As you mentioned, at the end of the year, you roll up all the data and you say, well, it costs so much to collect it, report it, and we're up for the next year now.
Yeah,
Uh, and actually, you mentioned also the standardization efforts, which are also very fragmented, even more fragmented now in the U.S. For instance, California, for instance, gets closer to European standards. European standards are moving as well with the omnibus bill.
I know, right?
Curiosity about how do you navigate? I can see the big smile
Well,
saying that
we're in 60 countries, so and
exactly.
as a global company, we look at all of the different regulatory requirements, and then we say, we map it out and say which ones are absolutely aligned with our business model. What can we report on? And if we report at in these areas, we'll meet the requirements 90% globally. And we've gone through that exercise, and we're doing that. But I do have to be frank with you that having that portfolio view and saying this is what we will develop and implement and report on within our environmental social governance, there are still countries that have independent reporting requirements. So the only way to really deal with it, Manuel, is to have a system that has reporting at the entity level, that goes up to the country level, that goes up to a global level, so that you can, quote, cut the data in any way necessary, whether it's for a customer, whether it's for a country, or whether it's globally. And so that hard work needs to be done to enable you to meet these, what I call changing requirements.
And I would suspect that this is an area for AI development as well, because this seems to be the right tool to reassemble the data in such a way that makes sense from a reporting viewpoint. I'm sorry. So my comment was, is AI being used or being proposed to be used in this context, artificial
Absolutely.
intelligence?
Yeah. So artificial intelligence in reporting, well, actually, it's being used across the board. When you gather the data to check the data integrity, benchmark it against industry best practices or regulatory requirements, is one. AI is also being used when you actually report by consolidating the information across so many different data platforms that you then can be able to report accordingly. So it's being used in helping you to consolidate data, validate data, and then report in a variety of ways. But let me just be real. AI is only as good as the information we put into it. Because there is the issue of hallucination, and it doesn't understand the data. It just takes the data and spits it out. So there has to
So
be some what I call as over time it gets more accurate. It kind of reminds me of Wikipedia, where people said people are just putting in information and we don't know how accurate it is, but then you had other people go through and validate the information that was in there. So it became more accurate over time. So, we're going through that process now of how do we leverage AI? How do we build it to have integrity? And that's just as important as we, use it to help us.
and also AI can be, I don't know if you use it in this context, but can be used also for extracting insights about sustainability strategies, sustainability planning, which, if I understand correctly, your biography, it's part of the key activities you managing now. In other
Yeah,
words, AI,
yeah.
AI
So
for insights.
Yeah, so AI for Insights, we have a Kyndryl Sustainability Advisor on Bridge, and our Bridge provides business insights on your IT infrastructure. So we can say, oh, you're running this type of hardware. This hardware uses this amount of energy. This is if you reduce the energy, this would reduce your carbon emissions. If you change, if this product is at the end of life, then or it can extend the life and be more sustainable. Those types of options are part of our Kyndryl Bridge solution. And we have that because we have a legacy of experience running data centers. And our company is part of the EU Code of Conduct for Data Centers. So we helped establish some of the criteria with a group of other companies for what is the energy efficiency in data centers. And that's actually been incorporated into some of the regulation in Europe called the EED. So that legacy of knowledge and leveraging that has been critical in terms of enable us to provide solutions to our customers credibly and say, hey, you have this asset, can we help you reduce it? And we used AI insights off of Kyndryl Bridge on sustainability to talk with our customers.
Oh, that's extremely interesting, actually. And as you said, it's I think the effort we need to put in the industries is to look forward, not only at reporting. Yes, reporting is necessary, but it shouldn't be the purpose of sustainability strategy. And I'm a little bit more curious if you want to share about the culture and collaboration at Kyndryl. You already mentioned the collaboration between suppliers and their customers, but if you can elaborate a little bit more about the culture and how this works, because without culture, sustainability, it's just another report.
So totally agree. And Manuel, that's why I'm at Kyndryl. We spun off from IBM 3.5 years ago, but we're the largest world's IT infrastructure service provider. As you said, we're in 60 countries. And one of the things is that I was brought in to build sustainability into the foundation of the company. And so we are what I call, you know, customer zero, where we've actually implemented and made our commitment to be 50% down by 2030, 50% down by 2030, 100% down by 2040. Year to date, we're down 11% in scope one, two, and three. And so, how did we do that but build this into the foundation of our company and look at how the company is transforming and growing and including that as part of our narrative and goals and reporting? So, that was built into the culture, right? And we do that through not only education, we require net zero education for all of our teams globally. We have a green guild that develops sustainability innovation with almost 500 members. And they do this in addition to their real jobs. And that's where sustainability advisor I talked about earlier came from. And we also, have what we say a culture where we call the Kyndryl way, where we focus on, and it's not just, here's a culture, but we actually address it by implementing it as part of how we go to market and how we work as a company. So restless for us is having a sense of urgency to declare our net zero goal and to develop the solutions that I've talked about. And then being empathetic for us is have a culture of caring. And caring for us has been we care for our people, we care for our planet, and we care that we're profitable. So purpose with profits. And then the last one is being devoted, which means basically collaboration, right? You can't do this job, you cannot implement solutions without collaborating internally across many functions and countries, as well as partnering with external companies to help us on the journey. So that, to develop these solutions, right? You can't do it alone. And you also have to develop industry best practices to help us get to global solutions. So anyway, that has been embedded into the culture of our company, and that's why I'm here.
Excellent. I uh, first thing, and we'll definitely invite you back to follow up conversation. But before that, what career recommendations do you have for new grads and mid-career executives? And please take a sort of a global look because different career, different education systems, different careers, different. When you operate in 60 countries, everything is probably different more than similar.
Well, I mean, it's true. We're operating in 60 countries, but the value of sustainability and the benefits it deliver are the same globally. That doesn't change. It's just how you do it according to the culture and the regulatory requirements. But for new graduates, I'd say you need to have both business fundamentals and sustainability, understanding of the sustainability science. Because in this day and age, whether you're a nonprofit or whether you're a company, like a global company, whether you're working for a company that actually supplies sustainable solutions or consulting firms, you need to look at the business and systemic relationship of how you develop and implement solutions. And you need to do it so that it is, economical. So that it has what I say profit with purpose. And the other thing I would say to them is that so being having an attitude of continuous learning because this space is evolving. AI did not exist, right? 10 years ago. Now it's part of the conversation. There's new frameworks that exist that did not exist. So you're continuously learning and evolving too. So and that's really critical. What I'd say for mid-career executives is that, you're building your sustainability knowledge, but I would say that one of the things that you really have to learn is how to work with stakeholders in all different areas, whether it's finance, supply chain, human resources, operations, because to implement these solutions is regardless of what field you're in, you have to work across and collaborate. And so being able to really facilitate that and demonstrate that is a critical skill to have. And so in your mid career, it's really all about demonstrating and implementing those solutions, and then that will speak for itself when you go out and, people say, why would I want to hire you? There's executive education programs, there's peer networks to continue to evolve your knowledge base as well. Um, and so, I found even with my career that I've been successful because my um, results and my impact speaks for itself, right? Since I've been at Kyndryl 3.5 years, we've received the EcoVadis Gold. We were recently, just last week, named Time Magazine's top 500 most sustainable companies in the world, where Forbes is listed as a sustainability leader, and that's in 3.5 years. But we've done it with always keeping the end vision in mind, but also there has been commitment from the bottom up and top down to implement these solutions. So I'm proud to say that we're making tremendous progress in a short period of time.
Absolutely. And um, I want to actually also summarize your recommendations for the especially the mid-career changers. Do not forget, I repeat, about your soft skills, because that will allow you to use your knowledge and your experience in your transdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary skills, but do not forget about the soft skills. I think I'm looking at an expert in soft skills right now.
Well,
So
thank you so much, Manuel.
thank you for taking the time to visit with us today, and Faith, and make sure for our audience to tune in every week to for a new episode of AKFI Actionable ESG Talk series. You'll gain new perspectives on how to mitigate risks and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation, and I shall say AI. Thank you again, Faith, and I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.